English, I hope that's okay for you. Then one question, is this for amplifying my voice or to record it? To record it. Good, so I have to speak loud, basically. All right. I need a clicker, please, if you have one. You got it. There you go. Where do I click? The right button? Yeah. Awesome. Sweet. Okay, well, there you go. I have to get out of the picture here. Okay, well, yeah, thanks everyone for welcoming me here. My name is Julian. I'm currently the head of SEO at Booking.com. For the past 6 years, I've been here in Amsterdam for Booking.com. Do I block the picture here, or is that fine? All right, okay. Yeah, so I'm doing SEO since around 11 years. I ran thousands of experiments, and I'm very much into Formula One. And I can tell you after this presentation why I believe Norris is the best one on the grid. Not in the Netherlands, right? Yeah, I'm originally from Berlin, as you might have heard from my accent a bit. It's around an hour and 20 minutes by plane. We're going to talk about experimentation. And so the first thing we do is talk a bit about Booking.com. So we have over 200 offices on the globe currently. The website is translated in 44 different languages. There are new languages getting added over time. We have over 231 million reviews. So there's a lot of user-generated content, as you can imagine, that we can play with. And there are, at this current moment, 28 million listings on the website. So what we're doing right now at Booking is we're building a new office. That's on the other side of the Nemo. Everyone who's from Amsterdam, I guess, is close to the Central Station. It's a science museum there. So we're building this office here so that all the employees have enough space. Booking.com's mission is to empower the people to experience the world. And we do this through hotel bookings. We do that through any type of anything that you basically have on your trip that's happening. You want to rent a car with Booking, you can book your flight with Booking.com. All of this is possible through us based on that mission. So what we're going to do is we do a live experiment, meaning I need every one of you to stand up right now. And I know this is super awkward, but just do it. And the ones at the back, take care with your hats. Yeah. Oh, wow. Didn't believe that you can actually stand there. That's awesome. Let me put my glass somewhere. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you a question. I'll show you some live examples or some real examples of things that happened on the website. I'm going to ask you which of these two things you believe made it on the website at the end. And I need you to point up your left arm or your right arm retrospectively. So the first question, which of these two do you believe made it on the website? We are at the... Oh, wow, that was quick. So for A, put up your left arm. For B, put up your right arm. OK. Left arm A, right arm B. This is at the checkout funnel, so you chose your hotel already. You're choosing your payment method. So the difference here you can see is icons versus text. So everyone who has the right arm up right now can still stand. Everyone who has the left arm up, please sit down. All right, we have another one here. So what you see here is when you are entering your destination and you choose your dates, right in that same search box, we're asking you for the amount of rooms you want, the amount of adults, the amount of children that are coming. The difference here you can see is we need to have the age of the children at the point of checkout. We need to know how old they are. Depending on that, the rate might change of the hotel. So what we're doing here is we're asking one's ages of children at the checkout versus children's ages on that respective day. It's a 5-year-old test, so don't worry about that date there. Imagine it's 2022 on this. So if you think the A made it on the website, raise your left arm. If you believe B made it on the website, raise your right arm. You don't have your arm up. Oh, I see. Sorry, stay down then. All right, so everyone who has the right arm up stays. Okay. All right. Next test that we ran. If you're on the hotel page right now, so you already chose your hotel. You're saying I want to stay at the NH Hotel right next to the Central Station. No free promo, by the way. And you're saying, well, I'm going for a family room. What we've done here is we introduced this line. We said these are the payment methods that are accepted at the hotel. So which one do you believe made it on the website and which one didn't? If you think A made it on the website, left arm. If you think B made it on the website, put up your right arm. Yep, all right. So A made it on the website. Okay. Yeah, adding payment methods here might not have been the right thing to do. All right, next test. So this might be interesting for everyone who's an SEO here in the room. I think most of you actually are. But at the very bottom, I'm not sure if you can see this, we're saying based on X amount of reviews is why we're saying this is an exceptional location because we have a lot of reviews for this. Or we said, guests loved walking around this neighborhood. So we turned it more into like a sentence for our customers. If you think left is the winner, put up your left arm. If you think right is the winner, put up your right arm. Oh, you're all right. This thing didn't do anything. So there was no measurable effect. We tried this. It's too small of a change. You can't measure anything from this. OK, last one. So what we did here is we are on the apartments for Berlin page. OK, that's the keyword. So you have like this landing page that ranks for it. And on that page, we show a lot of apartments, of course. At the bottom of this page, we're adding this block here, which says the food that you can get there and the transport. And we do this for like all of the pages. Retrospectively, they get their right block of content and 2 images versus not having it, basically. If you think the left is the winner, put up your left arm. If you think the right one is the winner, put up your right arm. So some of you probably figured out I want to trick you with this one. But yeah, actually, not having this block on that specific page was positive. Simply because we believe that we diverted away too much from the initial topic, right? The topic is apartments, not food, not transport. The initial topic was apartments. So we could have put more apartment content. All right, everyone who's still standing here, you can sit down as well. You were the winners of this thing, basically. So what I tried to show you with this, basically, is that a lot of you, if you wouldn't do that type of experiments, you might have just given out the wrong recommendation. Of course, you had not enough data here now. It was just a live experiment, but you know what I mean. So why do we do this at Booking.com? We do this so that customers can decide what should be on the website. It's very easy. We as single people can't always know the truth, so we let customers decide that for us by running experiments. At this very current moment, there are around 1,000 experiments running on Booking.com. So if you're all opening the website now on your phone, each of you will have an entirely different version of Booking.com. When I say entirely, maybe not on the first page, but on another page. But you all are in some kind of test, and you will all see some kind of different versions. Might be the color, might be a sentence, might be a button or a shade. But that's basically what we're doing. OK, so I would like to walk you through a bit of SEO testing and measurement and how usually things are working right now. So what you see here on the left side is basically just a single page. Let's say we talked about Coolblue earlier. Let's say Coolblue wants to put on their. You're working at Coolblue? All right. Well, good luck. I'm going to carry this through till the very end now. OK, so Coolblue Coolblue is selling TVs, and they're having a landing page for TVs. And so they're saying, OK, on this page, we want to introduce something that helps our customers and the SEO. We say they want to be a blog. They want to introduce a guide about TVs, how to buy a good TV. Okay, so let's just like a text about a TV guide. So what you're doing is you look at the last 2 weeks of traffic before you do this, right? And then at some point you introduce this thing. That's the red line. I'm carrying this through the presentation, so you need to understand that the red line always means we started this experiment. All right, so you're starting your experiment at this moment. You introduce that on that guide on the TV page, and so you're seeing now this thing goes up, which is great. So you decide, okay, this was amazing. I put this everywhere on the website now. Well, you might have thought like, okay, maybe on one single page it's not quite significant. So maybe let's increase our sample size a bit, right? So just to clarify this here, like 100 visitors in this thing. Later on, you have 150. The difference is 50 visitors. So you think this was a great experiment. OK, so you believe your sample size was a bit small. So you say, OK, only on TVs is not a big thing. Let's also put this on, what else do you sell? Electric toothbrushes, electric guitars, and washing machines. OK, so you introduce a bunch of new pages. I love that you're sitting first row as well. It's amazing. So you introduce a bunch of pages to that change. So you now say, well, I also have a washing machine guide, and I put an electric toothbrush guide, and so on. And you do the same thing. You have your period of traffic prior. You introduce the thing, and then you measure that the traffic goes up. So now this might all look pretty amazing, but if this day here is the 15th of December, you know that people are going to buy their Christmas presents right now, and that's why your traffic goes up, not because you did a change. Okay, so you're trying to be clever, and you're like, okay, well, you're not trying to be clever. You're clever, and you're saying, well, let's take the seasonality out of this and say last year's trend is indicative. So we're taking the trend from last year. Maybe 2021 is not a good example because Corona and stuff, but you're taking it in, and you're like, okay, so I measure the difference from here and the difference from here. And so now I believe still, although there might be some season, I think I filtered it out with my last year's data line. Okay, so I would like to show you another way of doing this, which is through SEO experimentation. It's a topic that's already discussed since many years now. I think the first time I really heard about it was like 2015 or so. But I believe it never really blew up that much. So let me try to talk to you a bit about it. I asked on LinkedIn if people already do that type of testing. This is the result. 46% of people said yes, 52% said no. These are almost all my colleagues as well, because it's my own LinkedIn, so I kind of bias them in a way, I believe. But there are a lot of people in there that do testing because they work with us. So back to this example here, where we're saying we're having our change on multiple Coolblue pages, and we're having our period prior to testing. Now, what you can do is you can start introducing groups into this. So you're saying, well, I split these pages up into a base group and a variant group, meaning I create a bucket A and a bucket B. So out of all your category pages that you're having, let's say Coolblue has 1,000 category pages. You say 500 of them don't receive that guide. 500 of them receive that guide. And so in order to do this, you create buckets. And so in the traffic line, this is how this will roughly behave, right? So you're going from the single line, which was the big thing before, to 2 lines of traffic, which is the sum of each of these buckets. All right, so you're measuring over a 2-week period the sum of the buckets for each of the single days. And so you might wonder how to do that bucketing. So I figured out 3 kind of ways. Don't look at the right side yet, look at it later. But basically what you can do is you can just take all your pages with their traffic values, throw them into Google Sheets, use a formula like rand between 0 and 1, and it will assign a random value to each of them. And that way, once you drag this down, you can see that each of them receive a value 0 or 1. Now you have them randomly bucketed. Okay, so out of your 1,000 category pages, you have 500 with a 1 and 500 with a 0. Okay, another thing you can do is you can use tools such as SEOtesting.com, Split Signal, and Search Pilot. Now I have to say I haven't used any of these tools, and they just popped up when I searched for SEO experimentation, so I can't endorse any of that. But I believe that each of them somehow need to figure out bucketing. Hence, if you use a tool, they will probably do that bucketing for you. I believe. I don't know. If someone knows it, tell me after. The next thing you can do is you can come work for Booking.com. We have an SEO experimentation tool that we built ourselves. We have a dedicated developer team that is maintaining that tool, and the team is also taking on any of your requests that you might have in terms of improving the tool. And that was the only promo, by the way, for Booking.com in this presentation. Okay, so one big difference between A/B testing and SEO experimentation that I want to point out again. This is like a summary of what I just talked about. In A/B testing, you have a customer landing on a website, and before they receive the result of the website, we're coin flipping on a server side and try to figure out, well, will they receive the TV page with the guide on it or the TV page without the guide on it? Opposite way. Okay? So we're coin flipping before they receive it. Now, for search engines, you can't really do that, right? So if you take the Google bot and you put them into this thing here, every time they land, they get a different bucket. Every page they look, they get a different bucket. So what you have to do is you have to pre-do this for them. And so this is why we're not splitting on users, like on that side, but we're splitting on pages. So we have 1,000 categories, and you split those category pages. Introduce the change to 100% of those pages. 50% of those pages to see your change. All right, so a few requirements to run those SEO experiments. First of all, you need a lot of pages. We're talking usually about hundreds. Okay, whatever that means. It can be thousands or millions. The more, the better. But you need at least like a few hundred pages or so to make sense out of this. This can be your category pages for Coolblue. This can be your blog post template, and it's always the kind of same thing, or there are similar elements in there. You can use them. The other thing you need is a good amount of traffic. I looked up one of the tools. Search Pilot it was, and they have as a requirement to use their tool that you need 30,000 visitors a month. Okay, so that's a bit of the benchmarking here. The next thing that I believe is why you should do SEO experimentation. Well, simply because if your traffic goes sideways right now and nothing is really happening and you're stagnating and you're super scared of losing that last bit of traffic as well, you should probably do experimentation because you can introduce something and if it worked, you put it up and you gain traffic, and if it didn't work, you just roll it all back and then have it back to standard what it was before and you're still going sideways. The other thing I believe this helps with a lot is company politics. Each of you might have experienced this once in your career that you have someone in the room who's like, well, I did this thing 10 years ago on this and this website. It's going to work, believe me. And you're there like, it's kind of 10 years later now. There was Penguin and Panda and all this, right? Maybe we shouldn't do it anymore. And so internal company politics, people who don't challenge you on data but on actions, that might be a good thing to do. Just run an experiment and show them with data that you're right or wrong, or that they are right or wrong. Okay, back to the experiment. We have our bucket split here. We measured the traffic until the moment of putting it live on the website. Now what you would expect ideally is that your one bucket stays kind of the same, right? That's your control group. You didn't do any change here, so this thing will just continue based on whatever season is running right now. And you introduce a variant, which is now ideally splitting away. This is your positive change, right? And so you're saying, okay, the difference from here and the difference from there is actually my win. And this is now not a trend line from last year with like kind of emulated data. This is real data that happens right now as you're running this thing. So it's, in my opinion, much more reliable to like very current situations. Okay, so if you look at the difference between those, you draw a single line. So if you take one graph minus the other, you have a single line. You can see this thing going up or down. Makes it much easier for you to detect the changes. Okay, so once you put your experiment out there and you believe this was a good change, right? Green line went up way more than the red one, so this was good. We're saying, okay, we also want to integrate those guides now on all the control pages that we didn't touch before. So let me go on this side for a bit now. Right, I'm sorry. So you're basically introducing that change now on your base as well. And so now what you have is this thing ideally picking up with the next line, right? So this is what you see here. Sorry for this. There you go. So what you're seeing basically is that your base picked up from down here. It went up without any change. You did the change here because you put it everywhere on the website now. And you see, okay, this now picks up with the original difference. Okay, so what you've done here is you went from here to up here by experimenting around it. Okay, so you have now scientifically proven that this is a good thing, and you don't just like implement something. You're like, okay, let's see if it does something in half a year. Okay, in order to build experiments, the first thing you will need is a good hypothesis, and so the one thing that I probably need you to take away from this today, if you don't want to do SEO experimentation, that's fine, that's your own thing, or if you can't even. But one thing you can all do is doing hypothesis. And so the definition of this is basically it's a statement that introduces a research question and is proposing an expected result. So we're doing something in order to see something. And so here's a template for you. If you want, you can take a picture of this as well. I'm not sure if the slides are getting sent around later. But basically what this does is it's introducing a theory first. Why do you believe that you want to do this type of change? Okay, so based on something that I have observed in the past, we believe that if we change certain things, putting guides on the TV pages, for users, it will encourage them to a certain behavior. So they will buy more TVs, or better TVs, or they don't send them back anymore because they bought the wrong one. Okay, so we have a theory first. That's what you come up with at the beginning. The next thing you do is you want to validate that theory. So you're saying we will know that this thing is true, what we just said, when we see a certain effect happening to a very specific metric. Now this is important here, and I will tell you why later. You want to measure an effect, increase, happen to TV sales. Okay, so pretty easy. The last thing you can do is introducing an objective. So you can say, this will be good for users, customers, your clients, your boss, whoever, and our company because a certain motivation, because you want to provide the best experience to people buying TVs. Okay? So this is all of the thing together here, written out in a full form. So based on a customer survey, about buying behavior. We believed that creating a buying guide for users will encourage them to purchase a product. This was your theory. And we validate this by, we know this when we see an increase happening to our conversion rate. This will be good for customers in our company because it makes it easier for them to choose a product. So this is a very generic one here. You obviously have to customize this to your case. Okay, so how to come up with a good hypothesis then? A few things that you can do. This was the 20-minute mark, by the way, so I need 10 more minutes or so. I hope that's fine. In order to figure out a good hypothesis, what you can do is brainstorming. Just organize a brainstorming, recruit different roles from your company, find your customer support agent, find a good designer, find the most creative person in the company, get them together in a room, brainstorm a bit, figure out what's going on. Important though, set a boundary. Make sure that you tell them, well, like, I only want to figure out how people can have better experiences buying TVs. Otherwise, they brainstorm away and they brainstorm around the entire website, which makes it very difficult for you to kind of gather any proper feedback from this. Ask a question. Say, how might we improve this? How might we do this and that? Okay? And you can just literally put this on a whiteboard in the room and be like, look, this is what we're actually here for today. And now the most important is actually reviewing that output. So you spend time on organizing this, you spend time on emailing these people, you spend time on setting up the meeting and doing the actual brainstorm with them. But if you don't look at the outcome from this, you wasted all of this. And your goal was to actually come up with a hypothesis. So I believe every one of you who ever did a brainstorm before, you know when you do all the Post-it notes and then you roll it together at the end of the day and you park it in the corner of an office. Or you have like this mirror board that everyone like contributes to and then you kind of minimize the tab and you never look at it again. So this is exactly what I'm trying to say. Don't do that. Like, be aware that you spend the exact amount of time you did for all of the preparation also on the after work. Need to figure out what your actual hypothesis could be from all this brainstorming. Okay, next thing you can do is dive into data. Find anomalies. Look into your search console. See where there's graphs dipping. See where there's things increasing. Look what happens at certain dates. Maybe there's a festival or something and you can learn something from the traffic increase or so. Compare your silos, compare your categories. Why are TV sales so bad and why are electric toothbrushes going so well? I hope TV sales go well, actually. Check with your colleagues from paid. So if you're in an SEO, if you're in an SEO department, very often those departments work in silos. You're the organic people and you're the paid people and everyone hates each other, right? They don't talk and stuff. It's like you spend all my money and all my salary. So basically, what you should do is really talk to them. They're sitting in front of a computer every day trying to optimize keyword campaigns, right? Like they know all these terms. They know how much it costs. There's plenty of stuff you can learn from them. Get a coffee with them, get them into a discussion, and invite them to your brainstorming as well. Okay, last thing you can do is analyze your funnel. Look from people coming in all the way until people leaving a website and purchasing something or not. Try to understand what happened in between. That will just give you good food for thought when you come up with your hypothesis. Okay, last thing you can do look at any kind of previous research that you've done. Okay, so ask your colleagues, maybe they heard something. Check surveys, run your own tests, go to usertesting.com or all their competitors. Introduce a question and let real people use your website to see what's actually happening. They will come up with a lot of things. If you're a startup, ask your investor. They probably did some research about your company before, otherwise they wouldn't have put money into it, right? So there's so many sources of research that you can look into. These are just a few of them. And yeah, see what can be adapted from any existing research. All right, so let's look at what to experiment on and what not. So everything that you see in green here on that side are things that you can very well experiment on. Page titles. Most of us are using some kind of CMS, I believe. So you can probably bulk change your page titles, right? So you can do the bucketing in a sheet, then you have the two groups, and then you take all these articles and you add something before. You say the best, for example. Or you add something after, or you change a word, or you add prices into it, or you say, we have the best guide of TVs. So page title is an amazing thing to experiment with because you have the data in the Search Console as well, right? You can see your traffic, you can see your click-through rates and all of this. Amazing results from this. And the next thing you can do is experiment with schema markup. All of you know that at some point this FAQ markup came out and everyone went wild with it and everyone put it, booking too. And so figure out what actually happens when you introduce this. Is this actually a good thing? Like, do people now read your FAQs and don't click on your thing anymore? Or do more people come through because you now have more real estate in the SERPs, right? So these are things that you can experiment, that you will see in your data later on. Internal linking, we talked about this earlier as well. So if you introduce a link to a single page and then you link to another page, if you introduce a link, does it like drain PageRank or something and this other thing now gains it? Like what's really happening? Or is a link always a positive thing? And how many links should you point and which anchor text should they have? All of this you can experiment with. Content sorting, new content. So introducing new content to your page is an amazing way of doing. We did this earlier when I showed you the food and the transport thing, right? We could have just put it on the website because we were like, well, it's pictures and text, of course it's good, it's SEO, right? And so I'm happy we tested it because it told us like, no, this is actually doing the opposite, it's going negative. You shouldn't do this. So a good thing to test with. Two things where experiments don't work very well. New page creation. So if you're saying, well, I have this brand new page here, you have nothing to compare it against, right? So you should probably not experiment with it. The other thing is too small changes. We've seen this earlier as well when we changed the reviews count into a sentence. The change was too small, we couldn't measure anything well from this. All right, let's talk about a few mistakes, and I promise you I'm done in like 4 or 5 minutes or so. Let's talk a bit about mistakes when you read from those experiment graphs. Now, this was our outcome earlier from introducing the TV guides to the page. This is the rare example that you look at something that's perfectly bucketed and then the thing spreads away. The reality is it looks like this, right? Most of the time, this is what you get. You get like your buckets. This is like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All right, okay. And so you do that, and then you see some kind of whatever, like it kind of maybe was positive, but maybe not, I don't know. Right? So very difficult to read those graphs, very difficult to read the data afterwards. So for those things, face reality and ask your data scientists, or actually look into your own data and don't read only from the graph, but look at the differences in numbers. That will tell you a better picture. The next thing you can do is cut off runtime too earlier. So you bucket your experiment, you're introducing the TV guides, and now you start your experiment. And now every day you look at the thing, and at some point this is positive, and you're like, whoop, there we go, put it full on. This goes now everywhere on the website. And so, well, like maybe you should have waited, or like maybe you should have like figured out before how long you want to run it and not wait until it's positive. What we call this is basically p-hacking. You're trying to figure out, you're trying to get a thing to significance, and once it is significant, you just take the result and you publish it. So predefine your time frame. Before you start your experiment, say, I need at least 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks to run this experiment because of that amount of traffic and because of that amount of pages. More traffic, more pages, shorter runtime. So one quote here from this I guess, pretty famous British economist that I found on Wikipedia or something. I think I searched for data or something. So he said, if you torture data long enough, it will confess to anything, which is very true. Like if you just like poke the thing around and it's sorted, and you're like, oh look, there's like all this thing that proves my hypothesis. Okay, next mistake you can do is run your experiment on too little amount of traffic. So if you're like looking at this graph here, like this is like 3 visitors, 1 visitor, 1 visitor, 2 visitors. This is way too low. Like there's nothing you can read from this. Imagine now someone puts a link on your website, like points a link to you, and all of a sudden this thing goes up. It has nothing to do with your initial experiment. Like you're trying to detect changes that just can't be confidentially getting caught. So as a real example, if we're both flipping a coin now, like there's a very high chance we both get the number, right? But if every one of you does this now once, there's a very high chance we all get 50-50, right? So you have 100% versus 50-50. Put more traffic into your experiment so you don't run into issues like that. Okay, 2 more. SEO experiment analysis mistakes, switch metrics. In your hypothesis, you said initially, I want to do this change, and I measure it by traffic going up. That was your initial hypothesis. If you now are like, well, conversion rate, okay, leads kind of went down, but oh, here, look, time spent on page. This thing went exactly how I wanted it to be. It went up. So what you did now is you just picked the nicest metric. And by statistics, if you track 100 of them, a few of them will be definitely going up if it was real or not, just by coincidence, right? So yeah, make sure you stick to your initial metric. if you think this was a good idea to then just take one random metric, retest your hypothesis under a different name. Say, well, I believe with this change, page time goes up, and then retest it. Do a bit of a change, and then see how you can actually improve that metric. OK, last one from the series. Rerun without a change. So what you can do is you can run your experiment, and then you run it again, and then you're running it again, and then you run it again. And at some point, this thing will go positive, 100%. It will also go negative a bunch of times. But just statistically, this thing at some point will confess to, yeah, this was great. OK, so in order to make sure that those things don't happen, and in order to figure out the significance, scientists usually use p-values for this. And so generally speaking, in research, a p-value of under 0.05 is considered statistically significant, though that is just an arbitrary number that someone came up with 100 years ago, so maybe it doesn't mean anything. What it means in picture, and I try to kind of visualize this here, each of these boxes is an experiment. So these are 10 experiments by 10 experiments. So you run 100 experiments. If your p-value is 0.05, you have a confidence rate of 95%, meaning in 95% of the cases, you believe you measured the right result. In 5% of the cases, statistics just played against you. Like when we flip coins, like if we do this often enough, we are ending up at 50%. But if we only do it once or twice, we're maybe even having twice the number, right? So this is basically how that stuff works. OK, another quote here from this dude. He's a YouTuber. He has a YouTube channel about science talks and stuff. I have a picture of him right after here. He says, although this methodology is flawed, it's far more reliable than any other way of testing that we currently have. So it's far more reliable than any way of testing we have right now. So the experiment thing, although it's broken, is still kind of better than just like wildly guessing, if you will. OK, so 2 more things for you to follow up on. Once, read this book. If you're in SEO, I truly believe in this. This will make great organizations, actually. I'm not affiliated with the author or with the book or anything. I just read it on myself. It's very thin, but this thing is basically packed with facts. Like every page is new facts on how you should basically run successful projects. And so this will help you a lot to get your things implemented when you talk with developers, for example, or with your management. This will help you a lot to get things actually done. The other thing that I would recommend you watching, if you're interested in this p-hacking thing, which is what we just talked about, you kind of manipulating the value by looking at different things. Watch this video here. It's called Is Most Published Research Wrong? I forgot his name. Derek Alexander Muller. The YouTube channel. I can never remember the name. It's something with a V. This is me. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, you can scan this code here and just press the follow button, or connect me by pressing the 3 dots. Yeah, thanks, everyone. I hope you learned a lot.